Hey, happy wonderful Friday, and I'm glad you're with me today. So take a minute, come on in. Spend some time in my little world, at least for a little while. Anyway, it's a good Friday. So, if I've told you this story before, and I'm repeating myself, just count it up to age or something like that, whatever it might be. But I thought it was worth telling. When I was growing up, I had a friend who lived kind of diagonally across the street from me. We were good friends, went all the way through school together, through 12th grade and so forth. And we were good friends. And in his yard, on the side yard of his house, a lengthy yard down the side of his house, was a good place to toss a football, play a few games. We set up croquet. We did all kinds of things out in that. Sometimes we'd do it in my side yard, but mine was shorter and his was longer, and it made a pretty good place to play football or whatever we wanted to do as kids. And we did a lot of things in his yard. But one of the things I noticed along the way when we were quite young was that his neighbor, when we were out there playing, would come out and would go up and down the side of his own yard and would be out there quite commonly watching us and seeing what we were doing. Must have been retired or whatever. Anyway, he just would pay attention to whatever we were doing out there. And I asked my friend about it one day. I said, he comes out and watches us and everything. And my friend said, yeah, we call him Mr. Grouch. We call him Mr. Grouch. Said he's not out here just to watch us. He's out here to make sure we don't get into his yard, don't mess with his hedges along here, his bushes, that we don't tear something up, that we don't get over and play in his yard, and to keep my dog out of his yard and all of that. And, you know, as in those days, a lot of people, we didn't have fences dividing our yards as much as we do today and so forth. Anyway, but they called him, as I said, Mr. Grouch. Just always complaining to my friend and his parents about how they were messing his bushes up, or something was getting into his yard, or the dogs or whatever. Just constant. He would complain about them. And maybe some of it was legitimate. And maybe as little boys we tossed the ball into his yard, ran into that, cut through his bushes or something. Who knows? I don't remember. But anyway, that's the way he was known. Mr. Grouch. As the years passed by and I got involved in other things and we didn't play as much in his yard, I had the occasion to try to sell newspaper subscriptions or things for Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, for our school, as kids do, went door to door selling stuff. And his house was, of course, in our area, and he was on my newspaper route, and so I had the occasion to go to his door and knock on his door, and always a little bit hesitant, but you know, it wasn't long after the first time or two I knocked on his door, I found him to be a very friendly, very open guy. He never bought a newspaper subscription from me that I remember, but he would almost always buy, if we're selling a candy bar or a bag of candy, or Scoutorama tickets or something like that, he would almost always come across with a few dollars and buy something, and was always very friendly. I don't think he recognized me as one of those kids that played in the yard. But anyway, he was just as friendly and nice a guy as you would meet down the way. But he was known by his neighbors as Mr. Grouch. I've thought about that sometimes, and maybe we don't always know how people see us. If they were to assign us a nickname, maybe ours wouldn't be as pleasant. Each of ours wouldn't be as pleasant as we would like it to be. I don't really want to know what mine might be. And don't be thinking of any right now either, by the way. Anyhow, it made me think, how are we recognized? What do people see in us? Do we watch our behavior and the way we conduct ourselves? You know, the guy known as Mr. Grouch had some pretty nice qualities about him, but he was still known by his neighbors as Mr. Grouch. Jesus points out in John 13, the people are going to know us by the behaviors that we show. By this will all men know that you're my disciples, if you have love for one another. The way we display ourselves, the caring love we show, is going to give us a name. We're going to be recognized by it. I think about the earliest days of those Christians, the earliest days in the development of the church. It says, now all who believed were together and had all things in common, showed they cared about one another, and sold their possessions and goods and divided them among all as any had need. So continuing daily, listen to this, with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. People liked them. They saw the positive aspects of them. They saw the way they cared about one another. I've heard the old saying from time to time, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. There's probably a lot of good in that statement. Yes, we need to know, but we need to care. What we show is going to give us a name. I wish I could remember Mr. Grouch's name. Of course, I'm sure he's long dead by now, and all as most of the people of that neighborhood of age are by now. But I think about that from time to time, and I would sure hate to think that my neighbors thought of me as Mr. Grouch. I'd rather be thought of as Mr. Kind or the good person or whatever it might be. Hey, just something to think about as you go through the day. Let people know who you are through the love you show for others. Hey, I'm glad you're with me on this wonderful Friday. We'll look forward to things in the future, and who knows what we might come up with down the road. Again, thanks for sharing with me today.